Audience seeing right now. All right. All right. Welcome. The Rapture Show. I'm Evangelist Larry. Breaking news from Israel. Do we got that? Breaking news from Israel. Producer Deacon.
Iran retaliates, hitting populated centers in Israel after Israel unleashes airstrikes that have left Tehran's military leaders dead and key nuclear facilities crippled.
Yeah, let's get right to Sandra Mitchell. She's in our newsroom tonight. She's been tracking all of this. Sandra?
Rick, right now that situation really escalating. More explosions in Tehran and Tel Aviv, where right now it's just after 4 o'clock in the morning. And we have this ominous warning from a senior Iranian official. He was saying that it will target any country that defends Israel, and that could, of course, include the United States. Air raid sirens blast as people in Israel are warned to take cover in bomb shelters. The Israeli military confirming tonight a new wave of missiles were launched from Iran. A few miles from Tel Aviv, rescuers rushed to pull people out of a house that was hit by an Iranian missile.
The Iranian regime has clearly stated its goal to destroy Israel. We will not sit and wait for its intentions to become actions. This is not just a threat to Israel. A nuclear-armed Iran would pose a grave danger to regional and global stability.
Late today, projectiles intercepted in the sky, but the sound of explosions rocked Jerusalem and plumes of smoke blanketed Tel Aviv. The Iran state news agency reporting that Iran fired hundreds of ballistic missiles at Israel, retaliation for Israel's Friday attack. Israel first launched strikes targeting Iran's nuclear program and military sites, and several top Iranian military officials were killed.
In the past 24 hours, we've taken out top military commanders, senior nuclear scientists, the Islamic regime's most significant enrichment facility, and a large portion of its ballistic missile arsenal. More is on the way. The regime doesn't know what hit them.
The attacks do raise the prospect of war between the two countries, Iranian military calling their attacks Operation Severe Punishment, insisting the Iranian military will not back down.
God willing, we will act powerfully. We will not show any leniency. Their lives will become bitter, no doubt.
President Trump gathering his national security team behind closed doors today. The president did not speak to the media, but on Truth Social, he did say that he was urging Iran to make a nuclear deal before, as he said, there is nothing left. Live in the newsroom, I'm Sandra Mitchell. Cher, back to you.
All right, Sandy, thank you.
All right, breaking news from Israel Friday. So Trump gave Iran 60 days. So he sent diplomats to Iran to negotiate, and their refusal prompted a red line. He told them, you've got 60 days. So Friday was the 60th day. Now, Trump initially reported that we had nothing to do with the attacks on Iran, but it was in response to Trump's demand that Iran comply and sign the treaty, and that they had 60 days. So Friday, I guess, mid-morning, we saw a launch on Iran's nuclear facilities. And so at this stage, they've been bombarding Iran's military infrastructure. They've already killed 5, 6, 7, 8 of their top tier nuclear scientists and generals. They eliminated their intelligence commander, the general in charge of intelligence. They say they know where the Ayatollah Khamenei is and that they're going to refrain from killing him. And so now, today, breaking news, we're seeing movement in the Mediterranean. An aircraft carrier armed to the hilt with F-18 Hornets has left the China Sea and they're entering the Mediterranean right now. There's a YouTube newscaster. It's called Agenda Free TV. Kind of a hacker. He keeps track of all of every plane in the sky. He monitors troop movements and different events around the world. And so he reported that the United States has moved, and Senator Lindsey Graham confirmed it in an interview this morning that the United States has moved their B-52 bombers from wherever they had them on an island out in the South Asian Pacific somewhere into Europe. And so these bombers are now in striking distance of Iran. And also on board of that aircraft carrier are refuelers that can fly up with these bombers and refuel them if they need it. So everything's in place for what we're thinking probably is the end of this conflict potentially, because all Israel is saying is, look, we cannot live safely with Iran pointing nuclear weapons at us. And so we have a right to defend ourselves. We are not going to wait any longer. So we've seen Israel take it into their own hands to eliminate Iran's nuclear weapons systems, their nuclear weapons program. So they've pretty much bombed all of these different sites that have to do with supporting their nuclear weapons program. The factories where they build the missiles have been annihilated. They've bombed, I think, over 30 times that main silo, where if Iran was to launch a nuclear weapon, it would be from 2 miles underground. So Israel's bombed it a good 20 or 30 times already, and they've destroyed whatever was from the ground up of that facility, but they have not been able to penetrate down into it. So they asked Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, asked Trump a couple of months ago, hey, if we need them, can we have a bunker buster bomb? So the United States, I think, has 3 of them. We're the only country in the world that has them. And Trump said no. So now, though, just this morning, Trump left the G7 summit early, and he is in the Situation Room in the White House. At least he was there this morning. And usually he won't go there unless there's something that he needs to tell the military, or the military needs to tell him, and together they're in that Situation Room, either planning or making decisions on what to do. So with the bombers in striking distance and the aircraft carrier in support with the bomber refueling aircraft and the F-18s on board there, kind of the writing on the wall looks like possibly the United States is going to fly a bomber with F-18s supporting it, and drop one of those bunker buster bombs that can penetrate 2 miles down into the ground and destroy Iran's capability of launching a nuke ever. And so this will de-escalate potentially. The entire war could be over today, tomorrow, the next day, whenever it is that they do, if they are doing this, get these planes up in the air. Now, we have Google also standing by. Later in the show, we're going to have him live in Israel. He's going to walk from the top of Mount Olives, and he's going to take the same path Jesus would have walked down to the Garden of Gethsemane, and he's going to walk to the Garden of Gethsemane and just kind of maybe show us how close the Temple Mount is from there, where the new temple at some point will be rebuilt according to the exact blueprints of Ezekiel 40. All right, so we're gonna hear from Google. He's gonna walk down with his GoPro and just show us Israel right now, what maybe is going on. Israel's been running into bomb shelters about 4 times a day now. Probably maybe a dozen of those ballistic missiles have penetrated Israel's Iron Dome system. They have maybe 40 casualties, deaths on the ground, with a couple of hundred of injuries, people in the hospital, and pretty much what looks like mass destructions in entire neighborhoods, cars burning, whole buildings collapsed. Right in Israel, Jerusalem last night went through, didn't get bombarded, but like it was close. They were in bomb shelters most of the night in Jerusalem where Google's at. And so just wanted to keep you up to date with that, because we are seeing Ezekiel 38, 39, whether it's going to happen now or later down the road, the next few weeks, the next year or two. But tensions are rising. There is a necessity on Israel's part to bring a solution to the safety of their people. They're tired of being a target for all of the Middle East's Iranian proxies, their missiles, their terrorism attacks. October 7th, they walked right in and just bloodthirsty killed men, women, and children, kidnapped 58 of them. So we've got all this in play. It's all prophetic. Israel is not in danger of being harmed in any great way, because we're seeing prophecy unfold. We know that God has his hand on Israel and will have his hand on Israel clear until the end. We know that because we see it in Scripture. So Ezekiel 38 describes in an eerie fashion the exact players that will attack Israel. So you're looking at the primary countries. You're looking at Russia, Turkey, Persia, which is Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya. Those 5 players will go into Israel and plunder it for its resources. Okay? So even this scenario, even if we see a de-escalation, even if we see regime change in Iran, which is another potential outcome of this war that they're talking about, even if we see all that, even a de-escalation, doesn't mean that Russia, Turkey, and Iran, with Ethiopia and Libya, who are kind of on the sidelines right now, even though they have gone to China as a group already to get assistance from China in how to fight the tariffs that Trump is imposing on them. So these countries, these 5 countries who have never been allies, Turkey has always hated Iran, and in fact they fought in World War I. Russia fought Turkey. They've always all been enemies all throughout history, yet here they are, allies in the end times, exactly as we see Ezekiel prophesy. You can't make that up. I mean, you could not have the more perfect storm and the conglomerate of prophecies all coming together to bring about what will be the Revelation 6 second seal opened, which triggers the Great Tribulation. So what starts the Great Tribulation is a war. So we see the rider in Revelation 6:3, we see the rider on a red horse with a mighty sword. In the New Living Translation, he takes peace from the earth. There's no more peace. And there is war and slaughter everywhere. So we asked Google a couple of episodes ago, what would happen if Turkey, Iran, and Russia together attacked Israel and we included Ethiopia and Libya, and it came back with a scenario of what would happen, and it was tantamount to what Google called nuclear winter, because of the system in place of retaliatory nuclear strikes. Pakistan has nukes, Russia has nukes, Turkey has nukes. Turkey is a giant military, the fourth largest in the world. Allied with Russia is an overwhelming force that would be going into attacking Israel for the plunder. But as we see in Ezekiel 38, it's only really actually God putting a hook in Russia's jaw to put it on his heart to devise that wicked plan to do that. And then God draws them there for the purpose of annihilating them. He literally knocks all their weapons out of the sky, and they land in an area called Hamand in Israel. And literally it takes them 7 years to clean up the mess. And if you read Ezekiel 39, you'll see this Gog and Magog war where Russia does come over with Turkey and Iran and Ethiopia and Libya to it, and they do attempt to, and they are annihilated. So we're going to see that unfold, but that is the war that triggers the Great Tribulation. So that's, most likely the scenario that brings the Antichrist into the picture. He's a part of a 10-country conglomeration. He comes into power by defeating 3 of those nations, essentially becomes elected as the president of the entire world, and creates a peace treaty. The third of the world is burned up in that war. We see this in Revelation 8. Burned up, dead, a third of the population from this war and slaughter everywhere. So the Antichrist does bring peace, but only for 3.5 years. He lies to them. He steps into the temple and claims to be God. So literally the Jews will say he's the Messiah. The Muslims will say he's the Imam that they've been waiting for. He will satisfy all of the religious needs, creating a one world government and a one world religion. They're already putting aside all of their theology and creating places. There's one in Dubai. There's going to be one here in the United States where the Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims can come together, put aside their theology, and worship the one true living God under the banner of love. It doesn't matter what your doctrine says. We all agree that God is love. Let's put aside of our differences and follow him together. This is the one world religion that the Antichrist will reign over, be the supreme leader of, that we are already seeing emerge. We've already seen the Pope bring them all together. We've already seen Christian groups joining them. I'm not going to say names. We even know what churches and what Christian leaders have done this. So we're seeing the grooming of the Antichrist for his one world takeover already in place. So now we're going to look at another news report. If Deacon Neil, if you could bring up that next breaking news.
Will Russia, Turkey and China provide support to Iran in its conflict with Israel? The 3 countries have condemned Israel's actions, but is that enough? And what do they all stand to lose if the conflict spirals out of control? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Adrian Finnegan. It is a conflict that has the potential to ignite the entire Middle East. Israel has been attacking Iran, saying that Tehran's nuclear program poses an existential threat. Iran, for its part, has responded with a barrage of retaliatory attacks while insisting that its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes. But now, with the 2 sides launching missiles and drones at each other, what role can the global community play? China, Russia and Turkey have condemned Israel's actions and called for diplomacy. Beijing and Moscow maintain economic and political ties with both Iran and Israel. So, what, if anything, can these powers do to end the conflict? And is there a shift in dynamics in the region? We'll put that to our guests in just a moment. But first, Imogen Kimber reports.
Israel continues to target Iran. And Iran is returning fire, hitting Tel Aviv and other cities. As the battle intensifies, major global and regional powers, including China, Russia and Turkey, have spoken out against Israel, who initiated the conflict.
Vladimir Putin condemned Israel's military operation against Iran and expressed serious concern about a possible escalation of the conflict, which would have unpredictable consequences for the entire situation in the Middle East.
Russia backed Iran in supporting Syria's former leader Bashar al-Assad, and it sees Iran as a counterbalance to US influence in the Middle East. But Moscow also has ties with Israel. After calling the Iranian and Israeli leaders, Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke to US President Donald Trump. Both agreed that negotiations on Iran's nuclear program should continue. There was also a phone call between the Chinese and Israeli foreign ministers, in which China said Israel violated Iran's sovereignty. China has ties with Israel and Iran. Tehran is part of China's Belt and Road project, and Beijing is one of Israel's biggest trading partners.
The sudden escalation of the regional situation does not serve the interests of any party. The Chinese side calls on relevant parties to take actions that promote regional peace and stability and to avoid further escalation of tensions. The Chinese side is willing to play a constructive role in easing the situation.
Turkey, which is a major critic of Israeli policies, said its actions show a disregard for international law, and that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is dragging the region and the world into disaster. While Russia, Turkey and China have not pledged any military support for Iran so far, their economic and political ties mean they may have a vested interest in trying to maintain the current balance of power. Imogen Kimber, Al Jazeera for Inside Story.
Let's bring in our guests. From Ankara, we're joined by Barin Kayaoğlu, Chair and Assistant.
So, you study world history. Google will help you. You'll never see in all of history Turkey, Iran, Russia ever in any kind of alliance about anything. Now, the only ties really that Russia has to Israel really primarily is economic. So Russia, full 60% of their economy is based on their natural gas, propane. They sell it to China, the Middle East, and all of Europe. It's what they live on. It's their bread and butter. So Israel is already building the Mediterranean pipeline under. It's already like almost to Greece. As soon as it gets there, they're going to start selling propane at a cheaper price to all of Russia's customers. Russia's a little bit nervous of that. China is too, because China also is a part of that market. So when you see Ezekiel 38 say they go there to plunder Israel, that's exactly why they're going there. For the economies of their nations are dependent on it. And Israel's threatening to undermine their entire market. Now, natural gas is how they heat their homes. It's like crucial. They will be in the dark ages without it, and literally cannot afford to not have that income coming in every month. So those are the real behind the scene tensions between these alliances with Russia and Israel and China and Israel. It's only money. In fact, it's kind of ironic too, we talked about in a couple of episodes ago, that the Euphrates River dried up. All throughout centuries, critics of the Bible have mocked Revelation in its prophecy that the Euphrates River in the end times would be dried up, and a 200 million man army would traverse the dry bed of it, take a left at the Jordan River, and go into Megiddo for the battle of Armageddon. So we see that prophesied, and we showed in explicit proof a Time magazine article from 1965 that China has already claimed that they can raise a 200, they didn't say 199 million, they didn't say 201 million. They claimed in 1965 that they could, at that time, raise an army of 200 million men, counting their enlisted personnel and their private, what would be considered like the National Guard, private militia. They say in 3 weeks they could have a 200 million man army. So we see not only that, but in Revelation we see the exact colors of the Chinese Air Force on these weapons that John describes in Revelation that start stinging and shooting and killing. So it is China. I mean, I would bet my bottom dollar on it that is without question a consensus amongst all prophetic teachers, anyone teaching eschatology or end time prophecy, whether you believe in pre-trib, whatever. So literally we're seeing the groundwork already just sitting there. I want to read real quick and remind you, even we see Gaza in prophecy and in the news, right? October 7th, they took however many hostages that was, 100 something. Now they're down to 58 hostages are still being held captive in Gaza by Hamas. So I'm going to read just a portion of that Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 4. I'll just go ahead and read that. You don't need to get that up or anything there, Deacon Neil. We're good. I'll just read it real quick. For Gaza shall be forsaken. This is in the future. Zephaniah foretold the future right along with Daniel and Jesus and many others. For Gaza shall be forsaken and Ashkelon desolate. Woe to the inhabitants of the seacoast. The seacoast is that beach on the other side of Gaza, straight out from Jerusalem. It's Gaza. The Philistines own it. That's supposed to belong to Israel. That's their beach. Woe to the inhabitants of the seacoast, the nations of the Cherethites, which is them. You trace it back to them. The word of the Lord is against you, O Canaan, land of Philistines, and God says, I will destroy you, so there shall be no inhabitants. I think that's already pretty close to having happened already. There's not much left of Gaza. I don't know if you watch Al Jazeera News. They show drone shots of it. It's all a ruin. So the seacoast shall be pastures, God says, for my people, with shelters for shepherds and folds for flocks. Not the Philistines living in there, shooting missiles at Israel every time they get a chance. The coast shall be for the remnant of the house of Judah. That's their beach. They shall feed their flocks there. In the houses of Ashkelon they shall lie down in the evenings and enjoy it. For the Lord their God will intervene for Israel and return their captives. I mean, you can't get any more specific to the exact circumstances in Gaza right now. Not only are they like uninhabited almost, they're going to have to give up those captives because God demands it. So we're seeing all of these prophecies unfold. There's lots in the news right now about the Eastern Gate. The Muslims blocked it way back in, 70 AD, 800 AD, and they built a Muslim cemetery in front of it. So they know Jews won't walk through a cemetery to prevent Jesus from walking into the Eastern Gate and prevent any Jews from going in also. So that graveyard was prophesied to be put there. And so we're seeing just hundreds literally of prophecies fulfilled. And so leading up to, remember this, Jesus said it in Revelations 3:10, for those of you who have kept my promise to persevere, I will protect you from that great time of testing that will come on the whole world to test who? Those that belong to this world. So we read in Thessalonians, we've already read it. You can go there, chapter 4 of 1st or 2nd Thessalonians, and it says, them, not us. They're asleep, we're not. They're drunk, we're not. And the wrath of God's going to fall on them, not us. So you don't see the church in the tribulation from 8 to chapter 20 or chapter 20 or 19 when you see Jesus coming down on a white horse with all of us following him to destroy those armies that gather there to destroy Israel. So you will not see the church in the book of Revelation. You will not. They are not there. It references the saints. It's talking about the 144,000 that were sealed on their forehead that are evangelists, that when the Antichrist stops the sacrifice at the 3.5-year mark of that 7-year treaty, and the Jews realize, oh my gosh, that is not the Messiah. He would, if it was a Messiah, he would never stop the sacrifice. So they run for their lives to Judea to hide. And the Antichrist, for the rest of the book of Revelation, chases them down to kill them. Then you see the two witnesses who stand on the porch of the Gentiles and witness that Jesus was the Messiah. They witness who Jesus was to the world. You see them killed and brought back to life in front of the whole world, it says. So all these things are getting ready to unfold. God does not want you fearful. That day that Michael, the archangel, shouts, and we hear that trumpet blast, and the dead in Christ rise first, and then those of us who remain and are alive will be caught up to be with them in the air. In 1 Corinthians 15, to be changed, because these immortal bodies cannot inherit immortality. Will be changed in the twinkling of an eye to be with the Lord forever in the air. That is the second coming of Christ for us as believers. That's when the bride sees the groom. We are longing for that day. God says he's coming for those who are eagerly waiting for that day. Are you eagerly waiting for that day? Oh my gosh, I am. I can't wait to see him face to face. All this hard work past eternity with him forever. Oh my gosh. So that's why and how Jesus protects us from that great time of testing, that great tribulation. We are raptured. And we see in Thessalonians, we are taken up out of the way so that the Antichrist can be revealed. He won't be revealed till we're taken out of the way. So we will be raptured sometime before that rider on the red horse takes peace from the earth, and there's war and slaughter everywhere. We will not be here for that. So that literally could happen tomorrow. Even if you see a de-escalation of the war between Iran and Israel right now, doesn't mean China, Turkey, and Iran and Ethiopia and Libya don't still say, you know what? I don't care what treaty we sign with America to not ever create a nuclear bomb. We are going to go in there together, Turkey, Russia, Ethiopia, Libya, and we're going to take plunder from them. They've already sworn annihilation of Israel. So they want what they have, that natural gas. It's the largest deposit of natural gas in the entire world, and Israel's sitting on it. And they're going to start selling it and undermining the entire economy of Russia. You're going to see it happen. I mean, Jesus said, look, when you see that dead fig tree brought back to life, know this, that generation will see all these things. It will not pass away. We are that generation. May 14th, 1948, Israel in one day, as prophesied, became a nation, reborn after 2,000 years. So we know it's near. Jesus said it's summer is near, and that means it's right around the corner. So don't be mocked by those, even in the church, to say, oh, yeah, you don't know the day or hour, only the Father knows. Well, Jesus gave us a pretty good clue to the timeline. We are that last generation. So if you want to dismiss that and live your life because you want to be 120 years old, fine. You're in denial. You'll still be raptured. God still loves you. But in the meantime, win souls. We have a short window where that door is open. The Father has announced a wedding feast, the marriage of the groom with his bride, and he said, go invite everyone. And so while that door is open, we have an open window to bring everyone we can into the house of the Lord, where that door is going to shut, and we will be married with him. We will be raptured. We will be caught up in the air to be with him forever. You can argue with it. You can dispute it. You can be, quote your credentials as a doctor of theology. I don't care. The Bible is explicit, and it's simple, and it's easy to understand. And you're just trying to maybe, rather than conform to it, you're trying to conform it to you because you're not ready. You're not ready to be with the Lord yet. You still have dreams of things that you want to accomplish here in this life. Whatever you are not God. God is sovereign. Everything happening has already been foretold right to the smallest detail. So we are seeing the end approach quickly. It could actually, literally tomorrow, Iran could, with Turkey, who has nuclear weapons, with Russia, who has nuclear weapons, literally launch an attack on Israel together for the purpose of taking their stuff, to plunder them. Exactly what So the minute that happens is the beginning of the Great Tribulation. So, Dick and Neil, if you could shoot over there to Google, we're going to go see what I forgot about them. I got about probably 15 minutes left. So here we go. This is Google. He's going to walk us from the top of Mount Olives, where he's at right there. That's the top of Mount Olives. So that's the city of David right there, down that green grass area. Up above it is where the upper room was. That's a great modern graveyard for Jews. So that path down the hill right there is where Jesus walked the actual very road to Gethsemane from the Mount of Olives. There's the city of David, a little bit more of a close-up. You can see other famous sites up in the area up there, but you wouldn't be able to recognize them without a tourist guide. If you went to Israel, you could just walk up there your own darn self. You don't have to pay a tour guide, nothing. You can go right over here. There's the Eastern Gate right there. Gethsemane's right down there. See that building? That's a hotel. Right down there where those trees are is the Garden of Gethsemane. So actually, Jesus would have walked over here where that bird just flew over there to that side. So literally, Jesus told the apostles, he said, look, see the stones of this temple? There won't be one left unturned from another. So that literally, that prophecy that Jesus gave them of the destruction of the temple was literally fulfilled in 70 AD when the Emperor Nero sent Titus to destroy it, and they did. It was built by Herod, and he had timbers on the inside framing it. And then there we see the Dome of the Rock right there. That is the site of the threshing floor that David bought, that purchased, that Pastor Lou preached about here recently. That's exactly where Abraham went up to Mount Moriah. That is Mount Moriah, where Abraham was going to, the exact spot, offer Isaac up to God. David bought it later. It was the threshing floor, and he gave it to Solomon to build the temple on, right there on that spot. So that dome right there, though, is the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So in 700 AD, 1400 years ago, Muhammad, who was a general in Saudi Arabia, under the Hamalins, the Jews and the Christians, ruled Saudi Arabia, and he felt like a second-class citizen, even though he was a general. So he was whining and crying about his lack of power. He hated the Jews and the Christians. Knew he was of the tribe of Ishmael and resented it, and took 500 men and went AWOL. So they went out into the desert, and they came back with a book, and they said that Allah, Jehovah, the God of Israel, wants to be called Allah now, and has broken his covenant with Israel and the Christians, and has made a covenant with the tribe of Ishmael, the Arabs, and we are to go and spread the news, and if they don't accept it, burn down their cities. You can go to the library and get a copy of the Quran and read it in about an hour. It's very short. It is not the religion of peace. They are supposed to perform jihad, the great caliphate, and take over the entire world, which they did at one point in history, and built that mosque. They ruled Israel. They owned it. They replaced the Roman Empire even. And so destroyed everything. The Muslim caliphate. Look at your history. Ask Google. Get a book. Go to the library. You'll find this out. So that site right there has been sitting there. So in 1948, when Israel became a nation, Lebanon, Egypt, Syria were mad. The UN declared that Israel is a sovereign nation and has a right to its own land, and the people from the Holocaust after World War II started migrating there in the droves, and these countries, the first thing they did was attack Israel. They fought long and hard. Israel held them back by the grit of their teeth, much like America fighting England. You know, England had never lost a war until they fought the colonies. The colonies fought them with pitchforks and squirrel guns. And so literally Israel did the same thing, fought back Egypt, Lebanon, and Syria, and Jordan, and destroyed them. Literally destroyed them, and made a peace treaty with them. And they established the Gaza Strip from that day on, that those Arabs that lived in the area could live in that area. They were being compassionate. Then literally we fast forward to 1967. The same darn thing happened again. They got tired of Israel saying that they own what they called their land. And so they attacked Israel again, and Israel destroyed them in what is called the 6-Day War. Study it. Miraculously. Overwhelming forces. 7 nations attacked them, and Israel won that war in 6 days. So they made a treaty with all of those countries, and for some reason the secular prime minister of Israel, I can't remember his name offhand, made a treaty with Jordan, and Jordan said, wait, this is our second holiest site next to Mecca. We want to own that Temple Mount. That's our mosque. So Israel gave it to them. Believe it or not, Jordan owns the Temple Mount. So recent news, though, maybe 6 months ago, Jordan already revealed that if it came to it, we would not fight over that Temple Mount. We have Mecca, and it's enough. If you want it, you know, we don't want to give it up, but we won't fight a war over it. So right there, we're going to see the new temple, the Ezekiel chapter 40 temple, built right where that Muslim mosque is. They're waiting for Muhammad to return right there. How many of you know that's not going to happen? You know, they might think the Antichrist might fool them and think maybe that's him or whatever, but that will not happen. You will see that temple built right there. Now, whether it happens before the Gog and Magog war that triggers the Great Tribulation or after, we really don't know. A lot of experts in prophecy and eschatology teachers, they say with great authority that, you know, if that temple will not be rebuilt till after the beginning of the tribulation. But we really actually don't know. There is no specific scripture that tells us that. So we could see it being rebuilt right now. That Temple Institute, has spent $20 million replicating the menorah. They have all of the implements for the sacrifices. They have the red heifer. They have the Levites in school right now learning how to do sacrifices. And they are petitioning the parliament right now, and they're gaining ground. Even these secular Netanyahu, all of them are starting to come around to it and having a little bit of grace for these Temple Institute crazy dudes that they're tired of bugging them about the temple. They're just afraid to tear it down because they know it would trigger a great World War III, because the Muslims, it's their second holiest site. So, but now that Jordan has said that, Netanyahu's kind of changing his tune a little bit. He's let them do some things. The Jews are not allowed up on those grounds. They're not allowed to pray up there or anything. So we've seen riots break out, almost wars, just because a Jew went up there and prayed on holy days, Jewish holy days. They go up there and they do it to provoke those Muslims sometimes, because they're tired of that dome sitting there on what they know is the site of Solomon's temple. They want to restart their sacrifices. They want their temple back. Back behind there is Tel Aviv. You can see right now as Google's panning over that that site right there, over that, what do you call it? The cityscape or whatever my brain is not working here in the moment, but you could see incoming missiles in any moment as Israel and Iran launch. Now, Iran's only got about 3,000 ballistic missiles left, so they can't keep it up too long. Israel says maybe about 3 weeks and they're going to run out. Already, they launch them in 4 times a day, and every time they launch them in, it's less missiles. So Israel could wait them out, but then they still have that threat of that nuclear missile. Now, they think Iran could actually even have it right now, and it's buried down in that silo 2 miles deep that probably Trump has already decided to bomb it with a bunker bomb, which literally we have, I think, 3 of them. No one's ever had the money to make them. They're kind of built after the design of the Hiroshima bomb, hydrogen bomb that United States dropped on Hiroshima and Hikusama, or whatever town that was. They're the same size, but they're different, and it's able to penetrate 2 miles underground and destroy that missile silo that they think Iran has a nuclear weapon in. They don't want them launching it, but that doesn't mean like literally that Iran is still in cahoots with Russia. Doesn't care if they lose that nuclear weapon because Russia has them. So does their friend Turkey. They're new friends. They're friends now. Iran, Turkey, and Russia never have been, ever, ever, ever. So the last time we saw anything close to an alliance, we saw Iran send tanks into Iraq to fight Russia. And Russia destroyed all their tanks in about 3 days with fighter jets. So Iran doesn't even have tanks anymore. They were saying that the Israeli pilots said that when they bombed that first night, when they bombed Iran, they said they could see on the ground Iranian pilots running to man their 1970s jet fighters, and they couldn't start them. They never even got off the ground as Israel just, destroyed them one after another. So they don't have an air force anymore. They don't have tanks. They don't have ground troops. They're close to Israel. They're neighbors. They could walk over there with a battalion, but they really don't have the military they need to do that. They would need Russia and Turkey to pull off any of their ideas of caliphate, which is what they live for, jihad. They're Muslims. They want to take over the world for Allah. They hate the great Satan, which is the United States, because we're Christians. They hate us. They'll never refute the Bible with you if you ever get in a discussion with a Muslim, because they know they're from the seed of Abraham as well. those 12 boys that Ishmael had, that God prophesied would never stop fighting each other. Well, here they are. They cannot get along for anything. But you know what? They just got along and joined forces together to hate Israel. And I think within a matter of months, I think by January, by the end of this year, we're going to see that alliance go into, this is just my guesstimate, for whatever it's worth, we're going to see Turkey, Iran and Russia, Ethiopia and Libya go into Israel to take plunder. No matter how this latest war works itself out or not, we're going to see it by the end of the year. We're going to see them go into Israel and take plunder. Now read Ezekiel 39 and you'll see the outcome of that war. Israel annihilates them. It's not the Gog and Magog war at the end of the tribulation, because in that war there is no aftermath. They are destroyed. In the war, they are destroyed, and there's nothing after that. That's the end of the world. That's the beginning of the millennium, and judgment happens at that point. In the first Gog and Magog war, you see literally 7 years they're trying to bury all the weapons from that attack. They bury all the dead bodies. It takes them 7 months. They have to clean the land, it even says, which is probably nuclear waste. Bodies don't destroy, don't poison the earth. That's compost. They literally have to go and cleanse the land from all the dead bodies that are on it, probably from that nuclear winterizing of what you look at, radiation damage and poisoning of the land. So we're looking at, I think, right around the corner, just like Jesus phrased it, I think we're seeing literally the end. We are seeing what is fixing to be the rider on the red horse taking peace from the earth, and there's war and slaughter everywhere. Because as soon as Russia, as soon as Turkey and Iran and Ethiopia and Libya go in there to do that, and Israel does repel them, you're gonna see holy hell break loose on the earth, the Bible says, and a third of the world is burned up. A third of the population is dead. That is a description of nuclear war. You see it in Revelation where the Chinese come down, that 200 million man army, and you see the armament that they use with those Air Force Chinese colors on them, and you see them march in there. Oh my gosh, that's the second Gog and Magog war, where they are repelled even yet once again. So we know China is eventually going to go in there also, but not the first time. They're just going to let Turkey and Russia and Iran do their dirty work, go in there and get annihilated for them. They won't have to, but they will be the impetus that destroys the earth in that nuclear retaliation against Israel when they destroy Russia, Turkey, Iran, and Ethiopia and Libya, when they